Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast.
Good job.
Awesome.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Valentine's Day podcast. Pink shirt, red lips. We've recreated our first Tim Hortons date.
Our first date?
You can see.
Is that what we've done?
Well, we didn't drink coffee, so we had these like
Wait, were
fake...
there? What are these again? Geraniums?
Oh, babe.
Carnations?
No.
No?
Getting closer. The point is, you get me flowers. Even if you don't know what kind they are.
Well, I was just thinking,
You get me flowers.
Were there flowers on the table at Tim Hortons?
Let's be honest, no.
Maybe we better tell people what Tim Hortons is.
So Tim Hortons, if you don't know, if you're not from Canada or Michigan,
Right.
it is our...
Or very northern Indiana.
If you're not from somewhere very cold, and no Nashville, -7, in Celsius, minus...
I don't know, whatever it is.
One snowplow doesn't mean you count for cold. But our very first date was, we better be honest, this shows where we've started and where we are now. Okay, let's be honest about this. Our first date was Chris saying, hey, do you want to go see the first Lord of the Rings movie? I've heard it's awesome. And then we can go get hot chocolate at Tim Hortons. And I'm like, yeah.
Because, who doesn't want to see Lord of the Rings?
I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
I mean, it is a long movie.
But you know what? I was so excited to be with you, and I was nervous, and it was the hand
And now
closer
you know,
to your hand, and is he going to hold my hand? Yes.
now you know what an orc is.
I still don't, and you don't know what geraniums are, so it's
Well,
okay.
there you go.
You know what?
That's what we're going to call this one. Orcs and geraniums.
Because just because you become one doesn't mean you become the same person. You don't
Right.
share all the things. Let's
Yeah.
be honest.
One is not the same.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where we began, and so in honor of that, we have some tea and flowers and candles. We're trying to, do a date here. Cheers.
I didn't see the candle until I sat down and I saw the smoke coming up. It's like, oh, the flowers are on fire. That's great.
That would be something I would do.
Well, didn't that happen at our wedding?
Yes.
Remember?
Wow, we're pulling out all the stops.
We arrived to the head table at the reception, and I guess the way they had set it up,
There were little tea light candles
little tea light candles.
amidst the flower arrangements. And it was Christmas time, so the flower arrangements were heavy because it was like pine trees and
Yeah.
things. And it's on video. We'll have to post a little clip of that someday. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I know I have it somewhere. I edited it. So
All you see is my face, and I'm smiling because someone's doing a nice speech, and then all of a sudden
your
this look
eyes
of
just go
horror. So let's start at the beginning. As you can see, we don't always know what we're doing. Sometimes we think we're getting it right, but we are just a work in progress, like all of you, and so is our love. And so we were kind of like, okay, it's Valentine's Day. We've had 15 years of Valentine's days. We should do a podcast episode. And I said that to you, and you were like, no, I'm not an expert on anything. I don't want to talk. I don't want to do that. I don't want to come across like I know it all. It's very Canadian of you.
Yes, it is.
And very nine of you. But I looked at him, I was like, babe, you still love me. After 15 years of Valentine's days and crazy life, you still love me and I still love you.
And I don't still love you. I love you more than I ever have loved you.
Right back at you. So, with that in mind, we felt like we had a passion for this podcast and a vision for it. And we were just chatting and we're like, oh my goodness, we have to talk about how we are still crazy in love. Like you said, not just a bit in love, crazy in love, even though our life has been crazy.
Right.
That's what we're going to talk about because that's our story. It hasn't just, I'm sure, like you guys listening, it hasn't always been perfect, but those really tough, crazy times are bonding times if you let them be. So that's where we're coming from. Not experts, not like, this is how it's done, so here's all our notes, but more like, this is how it's kind of worked for us and how we're really in love, and hopefully this is encouraging and inspiring, and let's get into it. So,
I did a little bit of research before we started, and because,
ooh, do tell.
well, I wanted to know why they call it Valentine's Day.
Oh, I don't
And,
know.
I mean, I'd always known about the Saint Valentine and sort of the Catholic
Sure.
history behind the saints and that.
You're so
that
smart.
kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so smart. My brain is moving faster than my mouth. So. But the first Valentine's Day, according to Wikipedia, is actually very romantic.
Really?
Yeah, it was a saint, or he was in prison. He was a Roman prisoner,
Okay.
and he was a minister,
Okay.
and he was in prison because he was preaching the gospel,
Wow.
and somehow he was able to get in touch with the daughter of the judge who had put him in prison, and she was blind, and he was able to pray for her healing,
What?
for her blindness.
This is not really.
And then before his execution, he sent her a note and signed it "Your Valentine,"
Wow.
because his name was Valentine.
Okay. I all of a sudden just started loving Valentine's Day more than ever.
Like, how about that, huh?
Babe, this is what I love. You know, you're the researcher, you're organized, you do laundry, you wear pink shirts.
And then it kind of like, it didn't really become a romantic holiday until like 200 years ago.
But love isn't always romance. And so I feel like it is
so that
a
was
beautiful
just a general term, blanket term for it being like a celebration of love.
Yeah. No, but that's what I'm saying. I concur. And I love that it started with something that looked like real love, not just romantic love. I think that's beautiful.
That's according to Wikipedia. So if you have
Chris
any problems with that, then feel free to let someone else know.
Well, that's really cool, babe. Another wonderful fact from you. You never disappoint. So, so I thought that maybe it would be cool. We don't plan these things out, as you can tell. We just baby's sleeping and Ziggy's really sick. So the fact that he's even sleeping at all, we put a lot of Tylenol in his system. I'm just kidding. We did the right amount of Tylenol and he kind of conked out. So we're like, okay, lights, camera, action. Let's do this.
Da-da-da.
Milo's in school, so we've got an hour to just get into it.
Oh, that's right, we do.
So without planning it, I had just thought naturally we should start with our very first fight. So we did Tim Hortons. We dated a little bit. We got married a year later at Christmas. The flowers fell, but we didn't take that as a bad sign. And we find ourselves in our first year of marriage in our little apartment, downtown Winnipeg. It was a basement apartment. It was the cutest. Had a fake fireplace that used to work. Didn't anymore. And too much detail. And we're like pretty in love. And then it comes to like maybe 2 or 3 months in, and you've kind of let the routine go. You've let, the habits kind of fall by the wayside. You're just eating popcorn, watching Friends every night, and just madly in love. Nothing else matters until your jeans are tight. And I'm just like, babe, I'm going to the gym. I got us a Y membership. Let's do this. And you've agreed on most things until now. And if you didn't agree, you just pretended like you did. So I assumed this would just go over swimmingly, that we were going to do this together. We're going to skip holding hands to the YMCA and work out and then skip home. And so it didn't really work that way. I was like, babe, I'm going to work out. And you're like, no, I'm going to sleep in today. Okay, cool. Maybe tomorrow. Okay, babe, I'm going to work out. I don't really feel like going. I'll fit it in later. I'm not a morning person. Okay. 2 months later, I am like angry. And I'm waking up in the morning just like, you need to do things my way. You need to work out my way.
So I'm not a morning person. I never have been. I probably look tired right now. And I had, I was in okay shape when we got married.
Yeah, you were.
So, I mean,
Which is what aggravated me more.
I knew the way around the gym. I wasn't like there every day, but I had never worked out in the morning.
That's true. You know what? That's a really good point. I was just forcing you to do things when I wanted to because I wanted to do everything together. It was just a fail. So lesson number 1 from Chris and Jody's arsenal of fails is don't force your partner to do things your way in your timeline under your control because it doesn't work. A year later, we were still arguing about the silly gym, which was ridiculous. And so I just started working out in my time, and before I knew it, you were doing your own thing, looking fine, which always bugged me because you can eat like kind of what you want.
Okay, yeah, just
anyway.
Whatever.
So do not force your partner to work out with you and do all the things with you when you want to do them. It's not worth the fight.
I guess it was worth the fight.
Well, okay, yeah. You know what? So, habits. I posted about this on Instagram today because I realized that looking back over 15 years of marriage, the fight for the gym, which took a while to resolve and figure out each of our grooves to how we were going to do that. But the root of it was I really valued being in shape for myself and for you. And you did too. We just had to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, and I don't think what we're trying to say here is that going to the gym together is going to be a cure-all for your problems. It's just
no.
For us, I think that we had both kind of gone into our relationships, feeling like wellness and
it was a priority.
Was a priority.
Yeah, totally.
And at certain times, I kind of let that slip, but I think we both, and it's also the kind of thing where you sort of see other friends or people that newlyweds that you meet, and it's like, oh, well, they've just kind of settled into a nice, comfortable pattern, and and I thought, well, I guess that's going to happen with us, like a few extra, love handles and all that kind of stuff. And then after like 5 years, it's like, oh, we're kind of still in pretty good shape. Maybe we'll just keep this going. And having 2 kids made it hard. I mean, I shouldn't even be saying this because it's like, wow, you're a total wimp compared to your wife. But yeah, I mean, not getting a lot of sleep doesn't help not working out.
But I think what you're saying too, you're right. Like let's be honest, is working out ever easy? Like, not in my life. It's really energizing when I'm done. It is not easy and energizing before I start.
Or fun.
Right.
Really. I mean,
well,
it's
my
fun.
playlist, let's be honest, a good playlist helps a lot.
I'll be honest, like at the Banff Springs Hotel, when you're in their really nice gym.
Yeah, why couldn't we always
work out there? The best equipment. I mean, that can be fun. Small F fun.
But no, I think the point that you're making, and I agree, is that although we don't work out the same way, we don't always hold hands and do it together, just like devotions are a priority, but we don't do those together either. You got to find your own way of doing what you value in your own way within your marriage.
Yeah.
But it has to be happening somehow. Because like if you share that value of like being healthy and whole and the best version of yourself for the other person and for yourself, but let's be honest, I'm looking at you all day. You're looking at me all day. So I want to feel great, but I also want you to think that I look great, to the best that I can. Nothing insane, but like 15 minutes of something every day has allowed us to stay like, I really like looking at you. So I think the point is, if it's a value, then make that value a habit so that even when you have 2 kids and it's really hard to fit in going to the Y, which we don't have memberships right now because it wouldn't happen. It's not convenient. It sounds like the childcare should lure me in, but I have to drive there and put 2 kids in the car to get there. Then I have to wear clothes to work out. So it's like on all of these levels, I don't want to go to the gym. Yeah. I'm going to go in my little playroom in the corner and wear like my sports bra and who cares what else, because no one's at home and I can fit it in. So make whatever you value as a couple a priority. Make it a habit so that you don't have to think about it. So it just happens and you keep up that value 15 years later. Mm-hmm. Because that's so true. In our hardest moments, if you can't keep up that habit, then it's not a habit.
That's true.
You shouldn't have to think about it.
I think I heard once in a sermon that if you do something 12 times in a row, then it can become a habit. But you have to do it at least that many times.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, we don't do 2-hour workouts. We don't have that leisurely time in our life anymore. We also don't sit around and have coffee after we work out and eat back our calories. We just do 15, 20-minute workouts, but it's done consistently. And we're not trying to be bodybuilders, and I'm not trying to be a bikini supermodel, but I want to be fit and healthy. And I do want to wear a bikini. So our goals are in check.
And you do look very nice in them.
Thanks, babe.
I remember it real once, here today. I mean, I wasn't the kind of person. I had some friends that I would go to the gym with once in a while and lift. But I mean, I had never really worked out with other people. And so
Yeah.
when we tried to go running once and tried to like...
You and me?
You know, like you
Yeah.
see these buddies that go running and they're like talking about the day, and it's like...
That's just not...
After about 5 minutes, I was like, I don't want to talk while I run. I want to listen to my music. And
Well, and you know what I realized? I like watching you when you're doing your own thing, listening to your music. I don't need you to be running beside me. When you do it out my kitchen window, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
And that's the
And I also
truth.
realized you're way faster than me.
Oh.
So I was like, running beside you, and you're just like, come on, let's go. Little Energizer bunny here.
Yeah, you always used to say that. It's like, I'm like a dog that you have to walk. I have to like just get after it. But we're just wired different. So that leads me to...
But
let's say,
when we walk, if we're like not, okay, this is not working out, but if we're just walking like in Manhattan or something, I have to hold your hand.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
you do.
you'll just like be gone.
or just hand me the high heels, and then I'll definitely slow down.
Right.
I remember that once you're like, why are we walking in sync? And you look down, I'm wearing like 4-inch heels. I'm like, perfect. And then I'm a little more like your height too. So maybe I just need to wear heels all the time. Like on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, I watch that show. I'm addicted. We're both addicted. That's one thing we do sync up on is that show. And she's always in heels.
Yeah.
How?
It's impressive.
But she also has a nanny 24/7.
Yeah, I mean, that show is, it's not.
Can we have her on the podcast?
Sure.
Rachel Brosnahan, is that how you say your last name?
I think so.
Oh, I'd love to talk to her. That show, if you haven't watched it.
She's marvelous.
If you haven't watched it. Which is kind of, that's it's a good segue, because some things in married life, if you've been married as long as we have, or like our parents who have been married a lot longer, you hear them say time and time again.
40 for your parents?
Yeah, my parents were 40 this year.
Wow.
Which, I'm going to be honest, we went into marriage with, I think, a leg up on married life because our parents were just legacy acts.
Yes.
Like, they were just in love, and they'd fought for their marriage, and they had careers and babies, and they multitasked and showed us how. So I should say that. Like, I don't take it for granted. We brought a winning, perspective into everything, into marriage, which can be a challenge. And I won't speak to that thing when you come in and you bring in, obviously, you bring yourself into your marriage and all your family. So that's a whole nother thing, and that's another podcast, because in the first couple of years, I had a tough time like leaving and cleaving. You know how you hear that? Like leaving my family and the closeness I had with them and their opinions and their perspectives, and going, okay, I love you though. I'm married to you now, and we're creating our own thing. And it was tough for me. I was so attached to the opinions and approval of my family. And I think that would probably be a good thing to go deeper into. But yeah, that took a few years to sort out, just how to show each other we loved each other's families, but that we loved each other the most, that our priority laid with each other. And especially now that we have babies and we live far away, we're still figuring that out. But I guess the real important flag on that point is just, you really do need to choose each other over your family time and time again, and anyone else's approval, really, and just be each other's biggest champion. And that's something Chris has always been for me from day one. And I think sometimes people in public, when he makes a cheesy joke about loving me or how hot I look, or on stage when he does that, when we sing I Got You Babe, people probably think it's an act. But seriously, 100% truth, Chris has always championed me privately and publicly. And that's huge, especially for a woman, but I think for a man too, for me to respect you in private and public. And I'm not always great at it, because I always think I know the way it should go. That's how I can be. And so I like to hold that over you sometimes, but the truth is, like, I respect you by listening and waiting for you to come to a conclusion, and not just forcing you to come to mine. And whatever you do in private is what you do in public, really. And, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. There's so many examples of how God is so much more concerned with the inner instead of the outer appearance. And in marriage, it's the same. Like, what you and I foster at home, how we treat each other at home, is what comes out on stage. It's not an act, because that wouldn't be sustainable. Like, if I was faking it every night we were on stage, I would have packed it in long ago. That is draining for me. So this podcast, our live show, everything is really a reflection of how we try to respect and love each other privately and publicly. That was a long rant, but it's important.
It's good. No, I wanted you to
You're so good at, you do that so naturally. You love me so, so naturally. And I am so lucky for that, because when you're in the presence of...
I think we're going on a date after this.
Yeah, this date is leading into a real date maybe. But yeah, when you know how you've been in those settings where couples are working something out, do not get me wrong. I'm not saying we don't work things out in private. Of course, not everything private is meant for public consumption. There's no way. Our Instagram is a highlight reel, intentionally so. We're highlighting encouraging stuff that we hope feeds your soul. But privately, we are definitely working it out. Fighting when we have to, in love and respect, but working it out. But that's not meant for public. And those moments where you accidentally didn't work it out and then you're in public and it comes out in little ways or big ways, it's just uncomfortable. And so anyway, do your best to respect your spouse, and not that you're faking it, but just save it. Save the really uncomfortable stuff for at home to work it out. Anyways, I guess I'm still processing that. Plus, you match the pillow. I just realized your salmon shirt matches our salmon pillow. You're so coordinated. We do plan our outfits.
Should I move it over here?
It's perfect. We do plan our outfits, but we do accidentally match once in a while. That is also a byproduct of being together for a long time. It's like people that look like their dogs or something. Oh, no, that's not the same.
Yeah, we've never had a dog, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, true. Because we know our capacity. That's another podcast, but we could not handle it. We would fight a lot, and we would not have a well cared for dog because we were always on the road.
Yeah, poor puppy.
I know, it would be terrible.
Poor puppy that doesn't exist.
So, sometimes I talk to you too much, don't I? I just kind of go on and on forever, and you start to
That's an interesting segue.
You your eyes glaze over. What do you do when I do that?
What do I do when you talk too much?
Yeah, is there
exactly that. My eyes glaze over, and
I just have to pick up your cues.
I kind of... Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't happen as often as it used to.
I've learned you.
I think it happened a lot when we first got married. But we also used to, before we got married, we would stay up till 4 a.m.
Yeah, true.
Talking.
Yeah.
And just
it's so new. And there's
sharing life.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think that you do learn each other, and you learn how the other person processes and thinks and feels. I used to think that Chris and I had to share absolutely everything together. He was my everything. He is. But not when it comes to the amount of verbiage that sometimes females need to get out. Sometimes if I've been alone with the kids all day, or I've been multitasking, but I haven't had a lot of adult interaction. The other night on the couch, he had our show queued up, but I was queued up to talk. I was that was my expectation.
And I was exhausted.
You were so tired. You were fighting a cold. We'd been with babies with colds, and I just wanted to end the night connecting. But I didn't say that. I just assumed. My husband knows me. We've been married 15 years. He's just going to read my body language that I'm wanting to chat and just have a heart to heart. And he's with the remote and his popcorn and his glass of wine. And he's just yeah, I didn't say anything. So even after 15 years, you got to say something. If you have an expectation that's in your mind.
I think the word we're looking for here is communication.
Yes, totally. And
maybe the most important thing.
Totally. Absolutely. And it's okay to just say it. I think in the early years of marriage and dating, it's this romanticized thing that the other person just reads your mind, reads your body language, just knows you. We've been married 15 years and we're still not getting that right all the time. Right. We're better at it.
Yeah, you can tell the other person how much you love them all the time, or you can think that you love them all the time, but if you're not communicating
if you're not saying it, that's so true.
And if you're not communicating it in the ways that they need to be loved.
Exactly. Yeah, for me, foreplay is an all-day thing. It's I'm not saying we're making out. I just mean, right. Communication is foreplay for me.
I don't even necessarily mean that part of it, which is extremely important. But, if I'm not...
But it's all connected.
It is all connected, but if I'm, bringing you... I don't know, if I bring you, a chocolate bar, and
Yeah.
I think this is going to be great. She would love this because I love this. It's like, no, dummy, that's not. That's
Flowers.
not what she
Pick up
loves.
the flowers. Pick up the flowers.
I remember we did that. It was a small group about the love languages.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gary Chapman.
And I've never been very good at small groups, but I do remember thinking like
This
there's-
kind of small group works for you.
Yeah, this is a good little group. But yeah, I remember thinking that there is a lot of truth in what they're trying to get across. Because
Totally. Don't love the way
the
you need to
things-
be loved. Love how they need to be loved.
Yeah, the language that I like to be, that I would like to be loved by you is
Sex.
very different
Let's
from.
have sex. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, that's just guys in general.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I mean, yeah, it's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
It is a real thing. And, I mean, it's an important thing.
There's a really funny Seinfeld, and I mean, maybe this is going.
Go for it, babe.
Yeah, it's our podcast.
Yeah.
But
People just are unsubscribing by, like, the millions.
right, and I mean, of course, we're
Just
talking
kidding.
about a show where the characters aren't married, so obviously we're not in favor of that. But what they were saying was that if men don't have sex, then they get dumber. But if women don't have sex, they get smarter.
Okay, so... okay, well, we'll just leave it there. I mean, I just wake up a happier human being
Hey,
the next day. So I don't know about smarter, not smarter, but I'm talking about satisfaction.
right.
Okay, we'll leave it there. We could talk a lot more about sex because we've worked a lot at it. And we've had 15 years of working at it. And if your husband says
It's a nice
he
thing
doesn't...
to practice.
Well, and if your husband says he doesn't care about lingerie, he's lying. If your wife says she doesn't care about flowers and little wonderful things throughout the day to make her want to have sex more, she's lying. So just keep that in mind as you think about Valentine's Day. If you want to kill it on Valentine's Day, like, get those things right. Like, start with flowers, maybe a love note to your wife. That's just me. Like, if he sends me, whether it's actually written out or a text, that's flirtatious, and just like, even if it's not flirtatious, even if it's just like, man, I've been thinking about you all day and I can't wait to see you, or like, could you put on that like t-shirt that I love, like whatever it is, it's super key. Like the fact that we still flirt, but it's funny, it's not always instinctual. I hate to say that. It is when we're on a date, the two of us. When we're home with babies, and especially sick babies, and life is crazy, like we started off by saying, which it is for all of us, you have to remember to prioritize flirting with your spouse, because life gets in the way. And it gets in the way of the little things like that. But those little things make the biggest difference. And without fail, like, just maybe that's even a goal. Maybe put it in your phone. If you know your wife or your husband just feels really affirmed and loved through a text message, which I don't know anyone who doesn't, regardless of love language, just write yourself a little note.
For a guy, it's super easy. It's just like, oh, I don't actually have to like buy stationery. I can just send a few emojis. And
Totally. And it goes a long way. But I'll be honest, I once found this little stack of cards that Chris had bought. These little tiny, they were the cutest little cards. And cards do say what you sometimes don't know how to say. And I think you'd picked out these cards that you felt nailed it. And I found a little stash to remind yourself to, like, you know, you never have an excuse. You always have cards on hand now. I'm going to leave Dodie little notes. And all through, especially my pregnancies, which...
this is why I don't like you cleaning out my stuff.
I wasn't snooping. I just, I found them.
Sure.
But it made me fall more in love with you, because I thought, wow, you're trying to make loving me well a habit, which I know that sounds really unromantic. Is that a word?
It is now.
Okay. Yeah. He spell checks everything for me. I'm not a speller. Grammar's not my thing. But you took loving me well into your own hands and tried to make it like a priority and a habit that you wouldn't be able to forget about it by buying those cards. And back to the habits, it's like, if you value your wife and you value your husband, make sure you have little alerts or little reminders on, like, just having fun and flirting and loving them well, even if it's just a text.
Yeah.
But it should also be a date night or day.
Yes.
Like, you make that such a priority. I would forget. I don't know if it's the season of life, being a mom and having to, like, feed babies. I don't think about feeding myself. If it's, like, caring for kids, I just don't prioritize the things I want to do all the time. hanging out with girlfriends, getting pedicures, the fun stuff, like giving fun a vote. I don't always prioritize that. But you're...
And then when you do go get a pedicure,
yeah,
you don't even get the polish on.
But yeah, you're good at getting me out the door for that stuff and helping me make that a priority, and just communicating, I got the kids, just go do your thing. You're also good. Well, and okay, just a little side note, it's also really important to have that time with girlfriends. Otherwise, I overload you with like tons of over communication. Sometimes you just got to have girl nights. It's just as important as a date night.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's, and this maybe isn't specific to Valentine's Day, but I think the specifics of us are that we spend a lot of time, because we're on the road so much, like pretty much half the year. Mm-hmm. I get to spend a lot of time with guys on the road.
That's true. There's no girls
and then
on
when
the
I
road.
come home, I mean, my couch is my home.
Yeah, you've been like hanging with dudes for a lot of time. That's a good point.
And I love it. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I don't come home and be like, oh, I got to see all my buddies.
Yeah.
You know, right now.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's my first priority.
We have so many really good friends here, and we see them, you know, maybe once or twice a month if we're lucky.
Yeah.
But
no, that's
just
good.
Our life.
That's good. And for me, it's a need. Like, it's a high priority need to like connect and feel like I'm on the same page and just talk about girl stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what is the number for a guy? Usually the average is like 10,000 words a day, but for a woman it's 100,000 words a day.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, let's just go with that.
But yeah, you're also really good at, giving me girl time, but you're also really good at prioritizing our date nights, which again is something that might fall by the wayside if it was up to me, but you put it on the calendar and you make it happen.
And it's not even so much that I have like a plan necessarily, like we're going to go to like this fancy place. Sometimes it's just carving out the time. And actually that's become, it used to be like that. Like we used to like really plan. Yeah. We're going to go to our favorite restaurant. We're going to do this. But I think my favorite date of the last 5 years was one that became completely random.
Which one?
Well, because we kind of had a plan. And I don't know if it was because it was raining or because it wasn't raining and we wanted to be outside, but we ended up completely changing the plan. And I think we only had Milo at this point. But we decided to just be like, if we wanted to go to our favorite place, what is our favorite tasting foods that we know of in Nashville right now? And we came up with like 5 different spots and we hit all 5 of them that night.
We did?
And we didn't just like go sit at a fancy restaurant. We were just kind of like taste hopping.
They have the best fries.
They have the best tacos. They have the best ice cream. They have the best whatever, you know.
I mean, we did that in New York City too.
Well, yeah.
We did like literally walked 8 hours and hit every spot and saw Elton John.
Can we count that as a Valentine's date?
Yeah. I mean, sure. I think at
the end of the night you figured out we walked 8 miles in one night.
It was insane. So yeah, I mean, I think the date night, you're right, it's carving out the time to just be you guys, because before we had kids, before we were loving the outcome, before any of those things, we were just a guy and a girl that met on the road and started to love hanging out with each other. And it's nice to remember.
You think that a guy like you and a girl like me?
I love you, and I'm
so
not.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I'm not afraid to say it. Okay. But yeah, anyway, so I think that's the thing though, just remembering that like I love you for all the things I originally loved you for and more, but you're still that guy. Like, even though now you're also a dad, which is super hot, and you're a good dad, and you also blah, blah, blah.
I'm a pretty fun dad.
You're a great dad. So anyways, date night. I have my moments.
I yelled at Milo last week and I felt terrible about it, but it happened by accident.
But your yelling is still not that loud.
And I apologized to him.
Yeah, that was very sweet. And he accepted your apology, which was just as sweet.
He did. I just saw his face just kind of like, I'm like, oh no.
That really got through. I mean, I'm glad it got through, but oh no. Yeah, we're not going to do a parenting podcast until we're 15 years
we'll
maybe
give
into
that
that
another
one.
year or 10.
Yeah. Oh man. So, and I think, so date night, I mean, you should probably have sex on date night. Like, I'm not saying you have to, but it's like, I mean, you would have wanted to when you went on your first date. We didn't. But let's be honest, like, we're attracted to each other.
On our first date, like, before we were married, yes.
Yeah. No, we're one of the weird ones, maybe, that never had sex before we got married.
We did not.
We did not. And it's probably a good thing to say. But everyone has a different story and a different upbringing and a different everything. But for us, we didn't. But I'm not going to say we didn't want to. And if we didn't want to, maybe we weren't meant for each other.
We know people that didn't even kiss before they got married, and
that is some control.
We did not have that level of control.
No.
But,
no.
And more power
to
ya.
Yeah, that was not a value, though. We were like, I like kissing you. So, anyways, all that to say, you should want to get it on. And hopefully after 15 years, you still want to. But there are
more
some...
than ever.
Yeah, yes. But let's be honest, too. It's good to try and make that a regular thing because, like... You do fall into pitfalls once in a while here and there, and it's just awesome to be on a date night and wanting it to end that way.
Right.
And even if you don't, if you know that he does,
if
do some jumping jacks and be like, okay, let's do this.
If going out and hoping that you can catch the game, but when you get home, that's not a date night.
What's that? What is the movie where she's putting on her sweatpants at 5 o'clock and he's like, no, not the sweatpants.
Yeah, you just see the close up of like the band getting tied, and it's like, oh, well, that's the end of that. So much.
And hey, I love me some sweatpants, but on date night, it's nice to maybe not be in the sweatpants.
Sweatpants are easy to take off.
Oh,
so.
you know, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess
sweats.
To each their own. Yeah, okay, so I don't have a good segue for this one, but these are just things that are coming to my mind.
Ironically, I don't have a lot of burned into my memory Valentine's days because I think for me anniversaries were just like
totally.
Valentine's was here and anniversaries like up here.
Yeah, totally.
But I do remember the time that I forgot about Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I remember that time too.
And that only happened once. Guys,
I was bummed out.
That's a bad idea. Regardless of what you think of Valentine's Day, whether you celebrate it or not, do not forget it.
And when your wife says it's okay, it's not a big deal, it's not that it's Valentine's Day, it's just that, like, you didn't, on a day where the world's celebrating love, and you didn't say...
So absolutely on the same page about we are not celebrating Valentine's Day because of X, Y, Z.
That's ridiculous. Like, if you don't want to celebrate Valentine's Day on that day, just celebrate love on a day. But, like, if you had said that to me, it would have been like, oh, babe, so thoughtful. Instead, it was just like a forgotten thing.
It just kind of like the end of the day came, and I'm like, yeah, so I didn't really do anything.
I have no plan. There's nothing. Everything's booked. But hey, it happens. It happens.
But I love you.
It's like, I don't. In this moment, I don't. I don't. And this date is not ending with sex. Just kidding. Maybe don't hold that over each other's head. We're giving more things not to do, I think, than things to do.
This is good. We're doing this podcast full 2 weeks before Valentine's Day, so I have no excuses.
But yeah, like this podcast and Valentine's Day, it's more about, hey, let's talk about love and marriage and the fact that we love being married, and regardless of the Valentine's Day thing.
And I mean, that started long before we were married. We went on a double date.
So true.
We were not dating each other, but we were on the double date.
That's true.
And by the end of the night, I was like, I'm obviously with the wrong person. You're way more fun than the person I'm with.
Oh, that's funny. I remember it.
And then I got dumped a month later. I'm like, well, yeah. I guess I saw that coming.
Okay, well, that is a super good point. To all of you who are dating or hope to be dating or hope to be married that are not there yet, it's like, just remember there should be an ease to it. Even when it's not easy, there should still be an ease.
Yeah,
like there should be a camaraderie.
I'm always a little thrown off when people start with, well, marriage is work. It's like,
it is.
Sure, there is work to it, but if that's what you think of marriage, then maybe don't get married. But
it is work, but it's like working from a place of loving the person.
There is work, but that's like saying life is work. It's like life is not work. There is work in life.
I love it.
There is work in marriage.
You see being married to me through the lens of, I love you. You're fun. I love hanging out, and I want to work to make this be the best it can.
Yeah, and I've never like once thought of our marriage as like high maintenance. Like I've got to do these things in order to like be a good husband.
Yeah. No, and I mean, it's true. I dated a few guys that it wasn't easy. Even dating wasn't easy. So this is the thing, okay? Highlight this statement. If it's not easy when you're dating, it is not going to be easy when you're married. Like, probably, right? Because dating isn't even like...
Unless they're rich.
All the things.
If they're really, like...
Money
I'm talking about, like, if they're, like, obscenely, like... they drive a Ferrari in the rain, rich.
Then it's going to be a piece of cake.
Yeah, no, just kidding.
We can work towards that goal if that's really something you want.
I mean, I've always wanted a Ferrari.
I know, you do love cars.
We're trying. We're writing better songs.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, anyway, if it's not easy when you're dating, maybe just be honest about that. No matter how hot he is, how hot she is, whatever, if you don't actually love hanging out, it's just not worth it because there's way too many hard things that are going to come in life.
And if you, and I mean, I can only speak to what guys say in groups, and I'm sure that it's much the same and more when girls talk about dating, etc.
Hit me.
But there was always like this, kind of like vibe about, oh, she does this, or like, I can't believe that she said this, and it's like, I never understood bad mouthing or talking down about your partner
to your buddies
when you weren't with her, like, or weren't you when you
like
weren't
almost
with him,
almost like
gossiping.
Talking,
like gossiping behind their
so
back.
Weird. Yeah,
and I'm not talking about like going to like counseling or talking to people that you really trust
or that you're struggling through.
I just don't understand why things go. I mean like
stuff you should say to her face and talk
man,
through.
She left the toilet paper on the wrong way, and I'm just like so mad about it, and like I think I'm gonna leave her. It's like, goodness sakes.
These are conversations that probably mean you skipped 100 conversations you should have had together.
Yes.
When it leads to gossiping with your buddies over beers or whatever, it's like, oh man. And you're right. I'm not talking about not working through the hard stuff with your community, but it's like, yeah. Ugh. But if you're there, it's not too late. That's the other thing. That's true. It's never too late. And
never too late.
Don't give up. Like, never give up. And don't wait to tell your friends until you're ready to give up.
And if you don't think that's true, then go back and watch the Plum podcast.
Yeah, so true. So true. All of our marriages are our own testimonies that are full of tests we've overcome together. I know I say that a lot, but it's true. And so we're just speaking today out of the place of this is what we've gone through, this is what we've come through. And hopefully it's encouraging to you guys. We have also always championed each other's dreams and goals. We didn't know it would end up being a dream and a goal we did together. Before we did this together, we were so in each other's world and corner at all each other's shows and just going, babe, I want you to do what makes you come alive. Because if you're not doing that, then you're not the person that like I've fallen in love with, you know? Mm-hmm. And so if you start to see the light go out of your partner's eyes, it's like, oh my goodness, like just don't, I guess 2 things, like personal growth is so important. You just got to be growing and learning. You got to have something to bring to the conversation. And otherwise date nights are super dull and boring. And if your husband wants to talk about the Vikings and you don't know that much, it's good to like learn a bit about it.
Don't do that.
No. I'm saying I can kind of talk football now, and I can kind of talk U2 now, and I can kind of talk shop with my husband on the stuff he loves to talk about. And you know what? There is a time and a place for serious talk. There's also a time and a place for like shooting the because that's what you did when you were dating, and it's like that's what was fun.
I definitely school of rock to you. I don't think I school of football to you.
No, but I realized like I better learn a bit of the language.
You like basketball, so it's fun to watch basketball because it's like you're not. I mean, in football, it's like, why did they do that?
Yeah.
Oh well, that's.
And then it's boring for you telling me all the things. You're like, I'm trying to watch the game.
I mean, no, not really, but.
But all that to say, speak each other's language for at least a couple minutes a day. Like if you're hanging out on the couch, instead of just being like, babe, I need to talk to you about this thing with the kid. Yes, you need to talk about the thing with the kids. There's always the thing with the kids, right? Or I need to talk to you about blah, blah, blah. Insert problem here. Maybe first it's like, let's just shoot the whatever. I don't know another phrase for that.
You just want to say that word.
I don't want to swear, but I keep wanting to say that phrase because it's perfect.
Just shoot the shirt.
Yeah, okay. Totally. And it's important to know how to do that. Don't lose the art of just being able to be like, babe, did the Vikings win? Oh, they didn't win. That stinks. Like, what happened to that quarterback that they thought was going to save the year? And like, why did they almost make the Super Bowl last year and they totally tanked this year? Like, okay, that's too far. Too many questions again, but you get what I'm saying.
And you don't really ever need to ask me whether they won or lost.
It'll be written all over your face.
It's pretty much obvious. If I'm running around the house with my hands in the air, they won. And if I say that I'm going to take a cold bath, they lost.
This is the perfect difference. Women still want to talk it out. Men are just like, can't you see what's going on here? Oh, man.
I have almost dropped both our boys during playoff games.
Yeah, I know. I'm there to back you up. I'm usually right behind you.
Yeah.
Because I know how
Dad
you get.
of the year.
I know how you get.
Minnesota Miracle. Ziggy almost went through the window.
But yeah, it's like, I guess just, it's hard to carve out time for all the things, but just don't under-prioritize or undervalue having fun and flirting and talking about stuff that maybe doesn't even really matter, because you're going to get to the stuff that matters. That always comes up, well, hopefully. But just make sure you know how to have fun together.
It'll come up eventually.
Here's another thing. Okay, you know what? My dad, Bernie, taught me something since I was a little girl. So me and my sister Brittany and my brother Graham and my dad did date nights with us when we were little, and I think me and my sister both mostly chose going to the mall when we were like 10 or whatever, and he always bought us a dress. It was pretty amazing, and like I can vividly remember our little shopping adventures. It was so special. And as I got older, and again, girls, let's express ourselves. Not every single yellow poofy pants leopard outfit I wear is Chris's first choice. So I'm not saying everything has to be something your husband thinks you're hot in, but take it from Bernie. He said, Jode, don't forget that like just because you like something doesn't mean you're dressing in a way that like your husband thinks you're sexy. Like, you go ahead on that fad if you have to, but don't forget the value of dressing in your husband's favorite stuff. And if he loves high heels, wear them once in a while. If he loves dresses, wear it once in a while. Like, dress in ways that like he thinks you're hot.
Your dad
that is good advice.
Almost more than any other person I have, he would say something to me, and I'd be like, Dad, that, either you just don't understand what's going on, or, you've never been through this before. And then, of course, like, whether it's 6 minutes later or 6 weeks or 6 months later, it comes to pass, and I'm just like,
Bernie was right.
Bernie the prophet.
Seriously. Yeah, it's
I remember,
a good point.
Okay, so this is like going...
Are you segueing off of love stuff?
Not completely.
Okay.
I was just going to say, basically, like a week after we started dating, and we were going to the same church. You invited me to your church.
Yeah.
Your family went to that church. Your dad came up to me as we were tearing down the equipment. Said, "Man, I can see you guys being married and doing this thing together." And it's like we had been together a week.
What?
Like a week. And the crazy thing is that I didn't think it was crazy.
Wow. I don't know that I knew that story.
I mean, I was a little bit like,
wow.
You went there.
Okay.
And I'm not peeing my pants right now.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
I guess this is good.
Thanks, Dad. Wow. Calling things into existence. My father. Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, I hope some of this, I'm so glad I didn't cut you off. I sometimes do that. That's bad. That was very relevant.
There was love
that was
associated
relevant.
with that.
Definitely. Well, we'll leave you with that, guys. If this brought a whole bunch of questions to mind, or you're like, I need more on the ... loveandtheoutcomepodcast@gmail.com. Send us more questions. We can go further into dating, the dating side of things, further into whatever you're interested in. But that's a bit from our life. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do. There's a swipe up on our story. There's a link in our bio. Subscribe, rate, and share it. Just let the world know, because we're having fun doing this, and we'd love other people to tune in and listen to. And that's it. God is love. We are the outcome.
V for Valentine.
Love each other.